You know, once before I got this slack-ass job and the one over at the Independence Institute, I tried my hand at being a cartoonist. I actually got into a lot of papers, but I couldn't draw, I wasn't funny, and I couldn't spell, so that didn't last all that long. But Paul Snover has been doing it for a long time. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
It's fun to be here. The green room isn't green, though.
Well, it depends on what you smoke beforehand.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, so you do an editorial cartoon for a paper in Utah. Remind me the name.
It's the Southern Utah Independent.
Okay, I can tell it's right up there with the Washington Times
yeah.
and Washington Post and all the rest.
It's out of St. George, Utah.
There's something beautiful about editorial cartoons, and we're missing particularly local editorial cartoons. And it's heartbreaking. You know, the Post no longer does it. You know, so there's a handful of guys nationwide, and they only do national issues. But there was a time when every daily paper had an editorial cartoonist, bringing up the fun things of the day in that town, in that city. I miss it. But on the bright hand, you know, that it's gone, a whole bunch of liberal cartoonists are out of work. So that's not bad. Tell me about this, Chronicles of a Mad Cartoonist. This is, you decided to put them all in a book for a while.
It's kind of my life built up until, 2017, I think it was, when I produced that. Quite a few cartoons in there, and I explain a little bit about the process and how you go about making them. And
see, you young guys now. Back when I was a cartoonist, there was no computers. I dipped a pen into a bowl of ink and poorly drew stuff, and you made a mistake. There was no computer to.
But see, I'm not so young. I just learned as the technology developed.
You're just smarter.
There you go.
You're smarter.
Smarter.
All right. When you decide on an issue to take on, what makes you say I want to weigh in on this one?
For me personally, mainly it's the freedom issues, the independence type issues that when I find that there's a tax or a regulation or some kind of invasion into a personal, your personal privacy, to be honest, I'm getting sick of it myself and would love to have some kind of effect to have people think about that process and maybe look more towards the freedom issues rather than bigger government and more government.
You can write columns, you can write essays, you can write speeches. What is it about cartoons that just pull it in and make a statement better?
Well, one of the things for me, I have a face for radio, a voice for editorial, and a penmanship for cartoons. So that's the direction I took. I had to go with that. But people need to learn how to read cartoons, for one thing.
What do you mean, read cartoons?
Well, there's a lot of information that could be hidden in them, or not hidden, but not really obvious. So you got to look, you got to ponder them and think about them a little bit. Don't just see it and go, oh, I hate that.
Other than me, who is your favorite cartoonist?
Well, John, that'd be you.
Yeah.
Antonio Prohias was one of my heroes.
He was the guy who did Spy versus Spy?
Spy versus Spy.
What? And I remember that. Was that in Mad Magazine? I'm trying to remember.
Mad Magazine, yeah.
And it was a white guy, a black guy, and they're the same guy. Yeah. It just worked. It was mostly visual sight gags.
Visual sight gags. He used very few words. He'd have like bang or pow or something like that in it. But I was just impressed by how he could get across his little funny gags, a 3-panel gag or 4-panel gag with no words. Yeah.
Yeah, the economy of ink on something like that is just incredible.
Yeah.
For me, it was Bloom County. And when I saw Bloom County, and I love Bloom County, and I love the world it created, and I love the characters it created, that you couldn't do anything, you couldn't do that in real life. There was just no way to do it. And because you got to be with them every day, you ended up having an affinity for them, the same way that people love Snoopy. And even now, Charles Schulz has been dead for 10, 15 years, and people still love Snoopy because of that character. That's why I wanted to do a daily cartoon, and I really wanted to create something like that. But editorial cartoons had the liberty to be able to take on bigger issues.
That's true, and I've gotten in trouble with some of them.
Like what?
Well,
Come on.
There was a billboard that got produced on the Western Slope. A friend of mine commissioned me to do, and he had the idea. And
could it be the one that had 4 different pictures of Obama, none of them flattering, perhaps of Obama in drag, Obama as a Mexican, Obama as a gangster, and Obama as a Middle Eastern terrorist? Could that have been that one?
That was the one.
All right, so he paid you to do that. It went up as a billboard. It was not well received.
It was not well received. It stayed up for about 3 days. I received threats, which didn't, it bothered my wife a little bit, but not me. But the reason it came down was because the owner of the billboard property started getting threats. And I'm going, you know what, this is supposed to be America. If my friend wanted to post this up there and have people see it, like right now there's a GOP with the hammer and sickle in it hanging close to where that one was.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know.
So some people are a bit more offended by free speech than others.
I guess, yes.
Yes, and it's funny, those who claim to love free speech seem to be those who are most offended.
And it is strange, it works both ways, left or right. I'll produce one that GOP or whatever left or right-wing people love, and I'll produce one that the more left-leaning people love.
So let's take a look at a couple of them, because with Trump, you've got somebody you can draw.
Yeah.
I mean, if he didn't have that hair, as I told you before, I remember when Tip O'Neill died, and thousands of cartoonists cried. All right, what does this one say?
Let's see.
Oh, he's playing the violin over as the United States burns.
Yeah.
Where did this
play for me, GOP? It'll play.
So he destroyed the GOP with this. Let's take a look at this. This is beautiful. I could never do color. What is the recreation of America?
That was another Arvid idea that he had.
What's an Arvid idea?
Arvid Moses was the fellow who commissioned the one of Obama. So he kind of liked Trump and wanted to be in on the Trump train type of a thing. So you're a hired gun, basically. I can be. If the price is right, so long as it's not too bad. I mean,
it's not too. Have you ever refused to do a cartoon?
No, I have not.
Really?
No.
Really? Well, then we could think of something.
Sure.
All right. You don't make a living doing this. I don't know of anybody except maybe a dozen, maybe 24 cartoonists in the whole nation who make a living now on editorial cartoons. And it's sad. I mean, here in Colorado, we had Mike Keefe, we had Chuck Assay down in the Springs. Even Boulder had an editorial cartoonist for a while, and it's heartbreaking that now all it is, when it happens, it's because people love doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Why do you love doing it?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I guess, and when I produce my own, it is for that freedom movement and the independence movement that I like to, the ones that I like to produce. Yeah. I did some for Douglas Bruce for the Tabor Amendment. I really enjoyed those because it was getting across an idea that I believed in, and so that helps to be able to produce something that you really believe in. And
why are most editorial cartoonists so very left-leaning? I know of Ramirez he does Creator Syndicate. He's with the Investors Business Daily. Chuck Assay was pretty conservative down in the Gazette. That's it. That's it. Even in the heyday of cartooning, that was it. Why?
I don't know as I can answer that. There's a few people, like I say, I guess everybody has an agenda, My agenda is freedom and independence and maybe a small republic type of a atmosphere. And it seems like most cartoonists either they seem to go to that left, big government.
I have a feeling because they come out of newsrooms as well, and they cartoon in the center of a newsroom.
Right.
I don't know how you don't become a little leftist. All right, where do people get the book?
You can order it online from Amazon. That's the best place.
Paul, thank you so much. Thank you. Check me out at KHOW Radio and the Denver Post. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.